CIL650 presents It's Your Money, an up-close and personal look at your finances. Here's your host, Fritz Snyder.
Up in the morning and out to school. The teacher is teaching the golden
Okay,
rule.
them is the marching tune. Time to go back to school. And we're back to teach you what you need to know to make better financial decisions, to help you keep more of your hard-earned dollars. And our mission is to teach you just how to do that. And we don't really do a very good job of that, do we? You know, if you take 100 people who started equal today at the age of 25, by the time they end up at 65, one is wealthy. One. Just one. 4 are well-to-do. 5 are still working. 36 are dead. And the remaining 54 are dead broke, dependent on family and state. And I firmly believe that the reason people fail financially to such a very, very great degree is the lack of a plan. They do not have a proper, well-documented, written financial plan. Now, everybody who calls this show, everybody who talks to me today and makes a contribution to this show will get, absolutely at no cost, a written financial plan. A second opinion on your investment portfolio, highly valuable. When is the last time that you had a serious look at your investment portfolio? Analyze it as to the expected rate of return, the degree of risk inherent in it. Is there a good chance that your financial portfolio is going to get you to where you want to go financially? Or not? Or do you know? If you don't, it's time to get a second opinion. No cost, no obligation. Your choice of any one of 21 different books on how to do better financially. No cost, except for your time. I see it at our next workshop. Very simple there. And we're going to have a little contest today. The 5 people who phone in with the best answer to this question, in my opinion, I will choose 5, in my opinion, will win $100. Okay? Now that's a pretty good deal. So I'm going to give the numbers out right now. Numbers to call is area code 604-280-0650. That's 604-280-0650. If you're calling long distance, it's 1-877-280-0650. If you want to log on, see what we look like, because this is a webcast, it's www.cil650.com. And for those who are shy or reluctant to talk on the air, if you want to make an appointment to see myself to get a financial plan, second opinion on your investment portfolio, see it at our next workshop, call Frida. She's down at the office right now. You can reach her there at 604-737-3512. Long distance, 1-800-661-1495. Remember, we're talking about your money and how to keep it. How to keep it is the most important part of that sentence. We all make lots of money. We just don't keep it. And life is not about how much you make that counts. It's about how much you keep. They didn't teach us how to do that in school, did they? If they did, I wasn't paying attention because I don't remember. Get on the line, give us a call. Once again, 604-280-0650. Long distance, 1-877-280-0650. Log on, www.cil650.com. Frida down at the office at area code 604-737-3512. Calling long distance, it's 1-800-661-1495. So once again, here's what we're talking about. If you won the lottery, let's say that you win yourself $1 million, maybe $50 million. What would you do with the money? Because I Googled that one and I get a lot of disaster stories. People that win lotteries, they win a small fortune. So that's not even a small fortune, it's a pretty live one, or a pretty big one. They win a fortune and they spend it very unwisely. So what would you do if you won the lottery? Get on the line, give us a call. Share that information with me and my listening audience. 604-280-0650. Long distance, 1-877-280-0650. Log on, www.cil650.com. Preet is down at the office at area code 604-737-3512. Long distance, it's 1-800-661-1495. I'm flying solo this morning for the first hour, but the second hour I will be joined by Jamie Newens from Davidson and Company. He's a top flight chartered accountant. He's a member of my mastermind group, and he will be on the air to answer all your questions about tax. So join us today. Let's have conversations, many conversations about your money and how to keep it. And the key question is, if you won the lottery, what would you do with the money? Good question, isn't it? Or if you inherited 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 million, what would you do with the money? I say that people, I know a fellow who declared bankruptcy. And the day he declared bankruptcy, he won the lottery. Exactly 1 year later, he was broke all over again. Not a good plan. Oh, let's talk to our favorite caller, Victoria from Langley. Victoria, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Frederick. How are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Do you want to know what I would do if it was $1 million? I would just lay low for maybe 3 months or 6 months, and then go and claim it, and do nothing, and then live off the interest of the $1 million. But if it was $10 million or more, I would still lay low for 3 to 6 months. I would sell everything I have and go on a world boat cruise.
Why would you lay low for 3 months?
Because I would just have to get my thoughts together and figure it out and talk to certain people, maybe you.
That's an awfully good answer, I wondered, when you said lay low for 3 months, but just gather your thoughts together. That's right. It starts to take the emotions out of the situation, and you're not making stupid decisions.
I am 61 years old. I would, do something different, but maybe my 31-year-old person back then would do something totally different than what I would do as a person now.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's not just the interest on the money, the return on the money.
Yes.
Because it's not always interest. You get dividends, capital gains, interest, and so on.
Yes.
So whatever profit you can make by investing the money, that's what you spend, and you don't spend the capital.
Yeah. Because the reason why I go on a board boat cruise is because you'd be going to different places all the time, and nobody'd recognize you or know who you were.
That's correct.
And also, I read something very interesting the other day, that in the next 20 years, Canadian baby boomers will expect to inherit $1 trillion. Isn't that what the national debt is worth in Canada right now?
It's about that. A little more than that, actually.
Yeah, isn't that something?
If you take the federal debt and combine it with the provincial debt, it's over $1 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
United States is $19 trillion.
So people in Canada expect to inherit $1 trillion over the next 20 years.
Yeah, there's going to be a huge transfer of wealth from the retiring people, the elderly, to the much younger baby boomers. Mm-hmm. A lot of billions of dollars being transferred, and all of a sudden you got people that haven't had any wealth. They're not used to having it, and all of a sudden they got some money, and they think they can just go spend it like crazy.
Yeah, and a lot of things
can't do that.
Canadians are doing right now is they're selling all their places down in the States because of the money's change, and keeping their money here and maybe buying a bigger house and doing something different.
Or they're selling their Vancouver real estate and moving to a farm out in the country.
Mm-hmm.
That was in the paper the other day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, take care. Have a great talk show.
Okay, you too. Take care.
Bye.
Okay. Victoria's line is now open, so if you've just joined us, give us a call. Again, now, if you won the lottery, what would you do with the money? That's what we're talking. That's the big question. I want to get that was a pretty darn good answer, but let's get some more ideas on that particular topic. Okay, let's talk to Tom from Vancouver. Tom, welcome to the program.
Hi, Fred.
Hi, Tom.
I was listening to the gal that was ahead of there, and I pretty much am in line with a lot of what she was saying. But the big thing, I think, for me anyway, and I'm not going to use my kids' names here because I don't want it going out on the air. Mm-hmm. But the winning the lottery is exactly what I'm worried about with my kids. I'm 69, and my kids are in mid-20s. We started late, but I've got two, a boy and a girl, and I'm worried about transferring when we go. I'm worried about the money that they're going to inherit. It's like going to be like winning the lotto, and I'm not really all that confident. I mean, I love them dearly, but I'm not all that confident that they will know what to do with it, and I think they're going to squander it. What kind of actions can I take to protect them? I'm not trying to be a control freak. I just want them to be okay.
Well, I think the first thing, I think that first caller, that was really good advice. Take about 3 months to cool off. Just sit back, put your feet up, and think. Because really, I think one of the major reasons why people fail financially is because they get emotional with their money. You got to get the emotions off the table.
Right.
All of a sudden, you think, oh, I'm rich. Beyond my wild, I can spend money like there's no tomorrow. You can't. I have some spreadsheets I'm going to put up during the second half of the show when I'm here with Jamie Newens on how fast your money disappears. You know, if there were no such thing as inflation, you wouldn't have a problem. But the problem is, if you invest your money and you get a return of, say, 5%, you think you can spend 5%, just living off the interest. But really, the 5% gets about 3% greater every year because of inflation. The extra 3% that you need to cover inflation comes out of the principal.
Right.
And you'll deplete your assets in about 13 or 14 years if you do that.
Right.
So you got to get investments that grow. You have to get investments that have some tax efficiency to them. If for example, if you could, and you can't, I'm not suggesting for a minute that you can, but if you could get a return, we'll say of 7 or 8 or 9 or 10% from an interest-bearing investment, it doesn't exist. But if it did, you'd be laughing, you think.
Right.
But you really wouldn't. You still have to adjust for inflation. And people don't take that into account.
So part two then, I guess, is let's say I kick the bucket tomorrow and the kids inherit, say, $3 million. But I don't feel they know how to handle the money. Is there a way for me to put this into something where they can only access
there's ways to do all that. You can put it into trusts. There's all kinds of things that you can do. You really need to talk to a specialist in those particular areas. That would be a dandy question for Jamie when he's on the show, because that's exactly what he specializes in.
Okay.
So you can set up inter vivos trusts, or you can set up a testamentary trust that says the kids only have access to the income, not the principal. There's all kinds of things that you can do.
All right.
You can buy GLWB products, which guarantee income for life.
Right.
Different things.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for your call. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, so Tom's line is now open. If you're out there listening to the show, get on the line, give us a call. Again, key question is, if you won the lottery, what would you do with the money? And Dwayne, if I put my finger up, make a note of who it was, okay? Okay, so let's continue. Once again, 604-280-0650, long distance, 1-877-280-0650. Log on, www.cil650.com. And Frida's down at the office right now, 604-737-3512. Long distance, 1-800-661-1495. Talking about your money, more importantly, about your money and how to keep it. I'm going to put some numbers up on my screen, and I presume that we can broadcast these. So I'm just going to go here to my retirement planner program. Okay, here's a scenario. This is an actual case study that I stored on my computer from last week. Here's a client who's 60 years of age. Wasn't a client at the time, but he comes to see me. He's 60. He wants to retire at 71. That's 11 years from now. He wants an income of $30,000 a year to retire on. He doesn't want to count the Canada Pension Plan or the old age pension, no form of Social Security, because he's not sure it's going to be there. He's going to live for 28 years after he retires. So he wants the income to span 28 years. He wants the income to be inflation adjusted at 3% because he wants us to assume that that's the rate of inflation. He's been able to accumulate $200,000 so far. We call that his net working assets. He figures that an after-tax, or not an after-tax, a before-tax return of 7% okay. In other words, that's the expected rate of return. I think that might be a bit high, but that's what he thinks. And he expects that before retirement and after retirement. And he wants to adjust that. He wants to do 3 calculations. He wants to do a calculation that if it's 9%, which is 2% greater than the 7, or if it's 5%, which is 2% less. That's called the cone of uncertainty. So just in case the numbers don't work out as expected, that gives us a buffer. So what does that look like? So if that fellow retired, what would the numbers be? Well, here they are. He continues to let his money grow until he's 71. He retires at 71. He starts taking money out. He's broke by age 84. Now, if he dies before he's 84, well, that's okay. But what if he lives to be 90 or 100? He's out of money at 84 based on those numbers. Remember I said as soon as you adjust for inflation, the 3% comes from the principal, and the principal declines. Okay, and really, I'm looking at a chart. I don't know if you can see it on my screen if we broadcast that out there, but I'm looking at a chart here right now that you should have a financial plan, and one of the pages in your financial plan should be this chart, because this tells you exactly where you're at when it comes to your retirement money. Okay, so maybe in this person's case, we have to increase the rate of return. We have to be more aggressive, or we have to make the $30,000 a year that he wants $25,000, or we make the life expectancy shorter. You have to adjust it so that the numbers work. It's called crunching the numbers, massaging the numbers. However you want to categorize it. Got 2 callers on the line right now. I got Joey from Vancouver. Joey, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks. How are you?
Pretty good, Joey. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. You guys are talking about if I won the lottery.
If you won the lottery, what would you do with the money?
Yeah, that sounds like such a good idea in theory.
Sounds fundamentally real easy, but apparently it isn't so easy because most people win the lottery end up failing.
Exactly. I saw a show the other day, actually, of how people have won so much money, bought themselves cars, homes, and then they're broke, which was so disconcerting. But in all honesty, right now, I have a decent profession. I mean, I didn't go into my profession for the money, which is sad because if I was smarter, and if I had a better guidance counselor, I'd get a different job at high school, I mean. But I did it for the love of the job. I'm a teacher. But I would definitely set up my kid, because right now I grew up. I was raised and I went to school in Vancouver, and everything I know in life is around Vancouver, other than the traveling I've done. And I can't afford to live here, which is sad. So I would definitely.
Not many people can.
Yeah, no, it's the same story with so many people that I talk to, and it saddens me. But I would like a piece of the pie in terms of even if it's an apartment or something like that in Vancouver, because that's, it's a huge part of who I am growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like it's more of a dream now than it ever was. I put half the money away just because I don't want to be one of those statistics. And if I was single, if I was just married without kids, I'd blow a little bit of it. But now I feel like I need to consider, the other part of my family. I'm just a new dad right now, so the pressure is definitely on. And winning a lottery would ease a little bit of that pressure. But right now it's, paycheck to paycheck, which is so sad because we both have good professions and we can't afford to live a lifestyle that's, go to decent restaurants once in a while, which is nice, but you're kind of penny pinching, which is what a lot of people are doing. So
I think, Joey, I think everybody has to penny pinch, even if you consider yourself rich. You have to manage the money you're spending.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, like if you don't, then you start spending money emotionally.
Yeah.
Oh well, it's just an extra $100, or oh well, it's just this, it's just that. That's what happens to people. I see these people. I see probably 20 financial profiles every week. People that come in to see me, I spend an hour or two with each one of them, and I see them, and they almost all have the same thing in common most of the time. They don't have a budget, for example. They don't have a spending plan. I think your financial plan starts with a spending plan. How much money are you going to spend on transportation? How much money are you going to spend for the roof over your head? How much money are you going to spend on groceries, life insurance, property insurance, the taxes on your house, repairs on the house?
Absolutely.
The list.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you have a budget. And when you have a budget, then you won't spend more than you earn. I mean, you'd be crazy if your budget says that you need to spend $4,000 a month to live, and you only have $3,000 coming in. You'd be nuts to try to maintain that kind of a spending plan, because your shortfall is $1,000 a month. You got to borrow $1,000 a month just to stay even. You can't spend more than you earn. Like, that's why the government of Canada. Victoria earlier talked about the fact that it's $1 trillion. When you if you include the provinces in the national debt, it's over $1 trillion. That doesn't include municipalities that owe money too.
Right.
Okay. It doesn't count the money that individuals owe. And it doesn't count unfunded future liabilities, like the unfunded Social Security benefits that are required to be paid later. In the United States, the national debt right now is over $19 trillion, but when you include the unfunded future liabilities, it's over $50 trillion.
That's amazing.
It's horrible, okay? Yeah. And I can't see a solution to it. I one time, years ago, asked Michael Campbell, I said, what do you think the solution is? And he looked at me, he said, reflation. In other words, we're going to have inflation. Maybe. That means print money. Yep. I don't know that is the solution, but we have to learn to live within our means.
And in a society that we're in right now, that's so much easier said than done. And I don't mean that you're wrong. I completely 100% believe.
Oh, it's very difficult. It's extremely difficult to do it.
It's absolutely amazing because, I wanted to get, for example, something fixed in my place, a bathroom fixed or toilet fixed, and that was $400 down the drain, and that was an hour-and-a-half job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I worked for a whole day for half of that as a teacher, and it's just like I think the prices of things are just ridiculous at this point. You take your car and to get.
If you want you like to teach.
I love it.
Let's see if we can elevate that job to a higher level. Why not teach teachers how to teach?
Oh God, tell me about that.
Well, you'd enjoy that, and you'd make a lot more money than you're making now.
Yeah, but I'm new in my profession. I'm sort of just learning the ropes myself. You know what I mean?
Okay. Well.
And I'd like to get to that level where I can be a mentor or peer-to-peer teacher who comes in and helps you with challenges in your classroom or the school and stuff like that. But that's down the road.
That's one thing. That's one thing they didn't teach us when I went to school. They didn't teach us how to learn, and that's what they should have taught us.
They still don't.
I know.
They give you a diploma and send you out there, and we have
teach us little tricks about how to remember stuff.
Hey, that's something that I would have loved when I was in teachers college, and they still don't do that, which amazes me. But you kind of learn. I guess they expect you to kind of learn with your experiences and gain the knowledge on your own, and that's sort of a part of the learning process as well.
Well, they were taught a certain formula as to how to teach, and maybe the formula to begin with was wrong. Being a bit facetious here. But anyway, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your call.
Yeah, no, thank you.
You take care. And I don't know that we got it. If you won the lottery, what would you do? What would you do with the money?
I would, like I said, I'd put half of it away. Wouldn't touch it, and the other half, I would love to take my family on a world trip, just so that we can experience different cultures, see how people live, get an appreciation for life itself, and then come back and reevaluate our finances with the other half of the money that we have.
You see, taking your family on a trip like that is just about what everybody else does, and that's why they fail. Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah. Like let's say you didn't win the lottery, you wouldn't have any of that money to begin with.
Nope. I wouldn't be going anywhere with them.
But if you were able to invest the money and the income was substantial enough, if the income from that investment would support you taking your family on that vacation, that's what you should do. You see, think about it this way. If you have an apple orchard and you want to harvest the apples, you don't go out and cut the trees down to harvest the apples. Okay?
True.
You only spend the earnings from your money, not the money itself, not the capital, not the principal. So
Right.
you got to resist the noble urge to do what you just said you were going to do.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I guess my train of thought is I wouldn't have done it if I hadn't had the money.
Yeah.
So now that we do, why not take the chance of our life and do this so we can experience the world? But
Yeah.
I understand exactly what you're saying.
It's like Victoria said earlier, take the time to sit down, put your feet up, and just relax for about 3 months and think about it.
Yeah.
Cool it off a little bit, you know.
Fair enough.
Maybe talk to a bunch of financial advisors, including myself, to get some ideas.
Definitely.
That might be the plan. Okay, appreciate your call, Joey. Got to move
Well,
along.
thank you. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Take care.
Let's talk to Ron from Surrey. Ron, welcome to the program.
Hey, good morning. How
Good
are
morning.
you doing?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Not too bad. If I won the lotto, I know exactly sort of what I would do.
Yeah, you go see Steve, right?
First of all, like you say, I'd put it in the bank, wait a couple of months, and decide what I'm going to do. I already have a budget. It's all in my head, but I pretty well don't overspend. I have money coming in, and I think you know who I am.
I know who you are. I recognize your voice.
I would talk to that financial advisor, which you know personally, and sit down and look at one of those charts. I don't have a chart like that, but I think I'd like to have one. So I think I'll have to talk to him about that.
You got to get yourself a financial plan. Look, I'm going to say something for the benefit not only of you, but for every listener that's out there.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is what you need to get from your financial advisor. You need to get a second opinion on your investment portfolio in writing at least once a year.
I tried to do that. He wouldn't do it for me.
Well, then it's time to demand it.
Oh, okay. Well.
Okay, I'm not trying to get him into trouble, but I'm simply saying, look, that's part of the obligation that people like myself have to my clients.
Well, you're right, because then I can compare it. You see?
That's correct.
Yeah.
It's like going to the doctor and getting an MRI.
Yeah.
Okay, I get an MRI about every 2 years, and I get a picture of my body from head to toe on a CD, and I take it to my doctor. I said, here's a picture of me, everything.
Yeah.
Tell me what to do to make sure it stays good.
Right.
Okay.
That's what you want.
And that's the same as your financial plan. It's like a GPS.
Yeah.
So you get that, okay?
You
get a written financial plan. The first part is an investment plan. The second part is the financial plan. It's part of the investment plan. The table I'm looking at right now on my computer in front of me is embedded right in the plan.
Okay.
You get an amortization schedule on your debts and mortgages and all that kind of stuff. You need to get a financial plan which tells you exactly how much money you're going to need to retire. It tells you exactly what investments you should have. It tells you exactly how much life insurance you need and all the rest of that kind of stuff. That is what you need. And if your financial advisor isn't providing you with that, then I'm sorry to say maybe it's time to get another financial advisor or demand that the one you have now provides it.
Yeah. Well, all I can do is ask and see what he says. Well, I do have a life insurance, and I do have the plan, you know, and I'm work. I don't touch my principal, and I invest in stuff that gives me dividends. So I am into the RIFs already, and you know, I don't know. I always like to look at different investments. You know,
how's your motorcycle doing?
It's asleep right now.
Asleep. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Ron. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your call.
Okay.
Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
So will you take me on for a second advice?
Awkward situation.
Yes, I know. It's very difficult. Okay, have a good day and have a good weekend.
Ron, incidentally, Ron deals with my son.
Yes, and he's doing very well.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, have a good day, Red.
Okay, you too, Ron. Take care. Let's talk to Maria from Vancouver. Maria, welcome to the program.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Hi, not too bad. How are you?
I very well, and I love the subject this morning because it makes everybody think. Yeah. If I were to win, I don't know the amount of money, the first thing I would do, I have not done it yet, I'm going to be honest here, I would come to see you, but more importantly, I would bring my 2 children with me because I would only keep 10% to use not to put away, but the other 90%, I would want you to educate my children so that one day, when I am no longer here, they will have plenty there for them, and by the time that happens, that I'm no longer here, they will be wise with those winnings, and they'll be able to do a lot more with it than if I were to hand it to them today.
Well, you know something? That is a really good answer. So I'm going to count that one.
To it.
Huh?
I've given it a lot of thought while I was waiting to talk.
You won yourself $100.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
But definitely, I would
call
send
Frida,
my
though,
children
okay?
to you. Definitely, I would do that.
Okay, Maria, can't tell you how much I appreciate your call.
Thank you.
You take care. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We got to go to the break. And when we come back from the break, we'll continue talking about if you won the lottery, what would you do with the money? Don't go away. So you got to start thinking about how you're spending your money.
Fred Snyder.
If you can reduce the amount of tax you pay, that means that you get a tax refund. So you get a tax refund means you've really overpaid your taxes. And if you overpay your taxes, what you've really done is loan money to the government. So rule number 1 of my 46 ways to ease the tax bite is don't lend your money to the government.
Fred Snyder.
So pay your taxes. We're not talking about not paying your taxes. We're talking about legal ways to reduce the taxes you pay, not avoid them, to reduce the taxes you pay so that you can have more money to save and invest so that you can achieve your financial goals sooner. And if you're already there, stay there longer, because once you get there, it's your obligation to stay there.
Fred Snyder.
If you have a financial plan and you're somewhere in the middle and you're wondering what tweaks that you should make in that plan to make it what you really want it to be, time to make a phone call. Or if maybe you're just getting started out and you want to get a starter plan, maybe it's time to talk to somebody like myself and get yourself on the right track.
Fred Snyder.
I think that everybody needs to go and make an appointment to see Fred.
Talk to Fred. Listen to Fred. Fred Snyder. Sunday mornings 9 to 11 on CIL 650. This is CISL Vancouver. Smooth and easy. CIL 650. This is It's Your Money on CIL 650. Here once again is Fred Snyder.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, listeners out there, we are back. And we're talking about your money and how to keep it. And the key question, little contest here today, giving away $100 to the people who give me the best answer to that question. If I won the lottery, what would I do with the money? And I suppose when I talk about winning the lottery, I'm talking about $1 million or more. Okay? Or if you inherited that kind of money, what would you do with it? If somehow you found yourself in possession of a whole big bunch of money that you weren't expecting, maybe you went to Las Vegas and you won the master jackpot or something, whatever it is, what would you do with the money? Okay? And whoever gives me the best answer to that question, five chances you get, the best answer wins $100. Yeah. And what's $100 to you? Well, it's as good as $200 if you're in a 50% tax bracket, because if you earn $200 and you're in a 50% tax bracket, you got to pay $100 to CRA to be left with $100 to be able to spend. This is tax-free money for you. Okay? So get on the line and give us a call. Give us your opinion. Let's share those ideas with our listeners, you, me, and all of our listeners. Someone once said to me, I know why a lot of people don't call you. Imagine if you were speaking to 5,000 people on a stage, and you had 5 empty chairs sitting on the stage beside you, and you said, come on up and sit in these chairs, and we'll talk to everybody about money. You wouldn't do it. I don't think I would either. So maybe you're shy, but I promise you, if you call this show, I will not embarrass anybody who calls this show. And sometimes people call, I know who they are, I recognize their voices. I don't embarrass people. I would never do that. Okay? So 604-280-0650. Long distance, 1-877-280-0650. Log on, www.CISL650.com. www.CISL650.com. Some people say, I'd love to call, but I'm too shy. Well, if that's the case, you can call Frida. She's down at the office. She's right there now. Maybe you want to make an appointment to see myself. Second opinion on your investment portfolio, written financial plan. Maybe you won one of our books or you won the $100. You have to talk to Frida. 604-737-3512. Long distance, 1-800-661-1495. I'm going to Nanaimo tomorrow to make one call, but maybe if somebody's in Nanaimo that needs to urgently see me, call Frida. Maybe we can make arrangements to see you while I'm over there tomorrow as well. Okay? So if you just tuned in, I'm certified financial planner Fred Snyder, also a registered financial planner. That's a CFP, RFP designation. I represent Scotia Wealth Management. Wealth management is what we do. We used to be called Scotia McLeod, but wealth management is more in line with what we do. That's financial planning in general, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the best way for you to organize your income, your expenses, your assets, and your liabilities to take you from where you are right now to where you want to go financially. But the problem with a lot of people that I talk to, they don't know where they want to go financially. I want to do better financially. What does that mean? What does better financially mean? I want to be financially independent. What does that mean? Define it. Spell it out. Zig Ziglar used to say, are you a wandering generality or a meaningful specific? You got to be more specific when you establish your goals. Your hopes, your plans, your dreams, and your ambitions depend upon one thing, and that's the money you need to be able to carry them out. But you need to have very specific goals, not hopes, plans, dreams, and ambitions. You want a 3,500 square foot house on the ocean someplace. You want a swimming pool. You want a big yacht. You want a fancy luxury car, whatever it might be. Social acceptance into the most exclusive club in town, a trust fund for the kids. What are your financial objectives? Maybe you want to start a small business. Maybe you just want to get out of debt. Maybe you want an investment portfolio that's up in the millions of stocks, bonds, real estate, whatever it might be. What are your goals? And again, the key question is, if you won the lottery, what would you do with the money? How would you invest it? Very, very important question, because I know that a lot of people think about that. Probably one of the best answers that I had, and I think I'm going to take that first answer that we got, and I'm going to count that as a winner too, because the best piece of advice that I've never heard anybody say that. I'd cool my heels for 3 months. I think that is a really good idea, because I see people that make stupid, emotional investment decisions on the spur of the moment. You don't do that. You got to think carefully about what you're doing. That's why you get a second opinion on your investment portfolio, maybe even a third. You shop around. You don't jump at the first thing. Let's talk to Tracy from Vancouver. Tracy, welcome to the program.
Hi, morning, Fred.
Good morning, Tracy. How you doing?
Well, I'm kind of just waking up, but I'm listening to you propose your question.
Ranting and raving.
And I think it really causes people to think, because for me, I'm approaching 70, and my answer is going to be different from somebody who is 30. And I think that's really important.
Well, so Tracy, I know one thing. I know that you like to travel.
Well, travel, I was with Joey, I think, on his view about taking his family traveling. Mm-hmm. You can only get so much education off of watching PBS and the Knowledge Network, and that adds to your travel. But, man, it is so neat to come back from someplace and say, I've been there. I've seen that.
Well, you went on a 4-month cruise not very long ago, right?
In 2013, and because the U.S. dollar our Canadian dollar versus U.S. dollar is so bad, we've decided to explore some of Canada now for this year. So I think, it depends on how old you are, what you do with your money, with your lottery winnings. Also, how much you win. I mean, if I won $1 million, I might take part of that and pay off whatever debt I have owing. That would be number one. Now, personally, I don't have any debt owing, so I feel very grateful. So for me, approaching 70, I would go see you, and I would invest it in something that might give me some income, or once a year I can take out so much to travel. To me, traveling isn't just a vacation.
Would you invest that money, Tracy? Would you invest that money in stocks, mutual funds, bonds? How would you invest it?
I would invest it in probably in in something that has capital gains, because you don't
How about
pay
real
so
estate?
much. What?
How about real estate?
You're going to try to get me to buy a house?
No, not at all. Never. I tried that.
It's not going to work. I'm really happy renting. I don't have the headaches. I don't have the roof repairs and the painting and all that. I wanted to tell you two stories, though, which were kind of interesting. One very recent and one that occurred to me back in the 70s. And I was working in with an institution that dealt with very critically injured people. And I met this young man who had been given the largest insurance payout for an accident that had ever been paid out in BC. And he told me that in 3 months it was gone.
Well, they're a perfect example of what I'm talking about right there.
Yeah, exactly. It was gone. And I asked him, well, what did you spend it on? I bought my girlfriend a new car, and we did this and did that, and I bought my friends, and we went out partying, and the money was gone. That was in the 70s. And I thought, wow, what a... And then it was back being broke again, crying the blues. And the other thing is, it's very interesting. I was just recently informed about my significant other was telling me about this car that he had seen, and we have a car, and it's a $50,000 car. I mean, it's not very, but it gets us from point A to point B. We go on trips with it and stuff like that. There's nothing too exciting. It has cruise control, a sunroof, it is automatic, and that's kind of some of the things that we wanted, but it wasn't expensive. So he comes home and he says, I saw a man with an Aston Martin, and and they cost a lot of money. Now he says, what does he have that I don't have? I can go 60 miles an hour. And we got talking about the things that we buy. Is it an ego? Is it an ego thing? Does it make him feel better?
It's emotional. It's
emotional.
Whether it's ego, it could be ego, it could be lots, but it's always emotional.
And I'm sitting there thinking his car's getting him around town. Maybe he uses it on the raceway. I don't know. But if he's just going to and from work, what's the difference? Kind of thing.
Get you from point A to point B. You used to drive buses, so you know all about transportation.
Just go from point A to point B. And I want to be able to get a couple of people in the car. That's about all I want.
Tracy, on my screen I have a spreadsheet that I just put up, and I've done some calculations. But I want to talk about this for a minute, just to dramatize what I'm talking about. Here's a fellow who is 65 years of age, and he wants an income of $40,000 a year to last for his life expectancy. So let's presume his life expectancy is age 85. So if I convert the $40,000 to an inflation-adjusted $40,000, his first withdrawal from the investment program is $41,200. His last withdrawal at age 85 is $72,244. If inflation is 3% over that period of time, the $72,000 will buy exactly the same thing as $40,000 today.
Right.
Okay? So therefore, how much capital does he need to be able to fund that income stream if he gets a return of 7% on the capital? So in other words, so roughly how much money do you think he would need to support that income stream?
Well, okay, assuming he doesn't have CPP and OAS.
Not counting that, taking that right out, yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, then, you see, but Tracy, there's the problem.
Yeah.
That's exactly the problem everybody has. The number is $550,000.
Yeah.
So if today, if he had $550,000 today that he could invest that money and get a return of 7%, then he would run out of money at age 85.
And then he could write a check to the undertaker, and
he wouldn't even be able to write the check to the undertaker. He'd be broke.
Yeah.
He'd be out of money.
He'd be out of money.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, so these calculations, there's lots of financial advisors. They don't even know how to make them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, Fred, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do want to say that for me, I would probably be coming to see you if I won the lottery, because then I would decide whether I needed to pay off my credit cards, which I don't have any bills, or do this or do that. And as far as real estate is concerned, I think I'm in a real estate mutual fund right now. I think it's a dynamic real estate, or
that's a real estate fund. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I'm in that now.
Well, that gets you some. I think that's 5% of your portfolio. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. No, I think that's a good idea. One parting question.
Yeah.
What would the overall asset allocation of your portfolio look like? Like how much money would be in fixed income and how much in equities?
Right now, for me, I would probably leave it the way it is, and I think it's about 50-50 now, or maybe 60-40.
Knowing you as it should be about 50-50.
Yeah. Okay. Because of the lack of, I mean, nothing's doing much in our economy right now.
Pretty slow right now. Yeah.
Yeah. I would just leave it. But I think if I had more, I would maybe. I don't know. I might, depending on. I think again, it depends on how much you won.
Who's going to be the next president of the United States?
Pardon?
Who's going to be the next president of the United States?
That's been something we were talking about last night. I think it's going to be a running. We were trying to figure out who was going to run against who. It's going to be Hillary against Donald Trump, maybe. I mean, I don't know.
Pretty good chance unless they have a brokered convention. I would think that's the way it's heading.
Yeah, I mean, but the question is Hillary? What's her platform?
Well, she might even be in jail by then.
Who knows what's going on? Yeah. Anyhow, you have a nice weekend, rest of the weekend, and I'll be in to see you at some point here. So,
Tracy, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your call. You enjoy the rest of the weekend too. Take care.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye. Okay, Tracy's line is now open. We are coming up to the break in about 3 minutes. So if you're out there, you're listening to the show, maybe it's time to make a phone call. Maybe that phone call is the first step in a long journey. You know, the best way to predict the future is to create it today. The best way to create your financial future today is to get yourself a written financial plan. Very few people have them. You know, I would say that maybe 5% of the people that come to see me for a second opinion do not have a written financial plan. They may have a portfolio of securities with some other advisor someplace, but they don't have a financial plan. You can't make the plan work without a plan. You can't manage your money without a budget. A budget is part of your financial plan. Projections is part of your financial plan. Your financial plan will define exactly the right kind and how much life insurance that you should have. You need to know that and much, much more. You need to have an estate plan within your plan. How are you going to make sure that your assets are passed on to your beneficiaries, your next of kin, without them fighting over it or the government grabbing it all in taxes? I have a presentation and I have a picture of a family inside a house fighting like hell, and CRA is knocking on the door. Well, that's a good icon as to what we're talking about when we talk about financial planning. How do you make sure that your successors acquire your assets without strife? And at the same time, how do you protect those assets from the tax man? That's a proper estate plan, which is part of an overall financial plan. You need that and much, much more. Let's talk to Nancy from New Westminster. Nancy, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Fred.
Good morning, Nancy.
Interesting topic, as I find myself not in the lottery situation, but in the inheritance situation right now.
Yes.
So, this is something I have been spending a number of months talking about or thinking about and trying to figure out the best way to make the money work for me now, but also last into our retirement. And one of the things that the one thing that I want to do is, first of all, pay off all my debts so that then there's more money coming in each month that's disposable income.
Mm-hmm.
Invest it in a really good way so that that money will pay back dividends or some sort of an income. I would also like to make sure that I am doing the right thing to minimize my taxes, because all of a sudden you get that much money and it's not a lottery, there's going to be tax implications. So I am going to gather my mastermind group together.
Love that mastermind group.
Sorry, Fred. And make sure that, because nobody can know everything.
Nobody.
So I don't know what's available out there and how to best do this so that I can not only pay off my bills and leave something for my children, but also make some dreams come true, because we all have dreams. And I was talking to an accountant friend of mine one day and talking about my hope that I would make smart choices with the money that's coming in. And he smiled at me and he said, don't be afraid to make some dumb ones too. The key is, don't forget to make more smart ones than dumb ones.
You know, I used to teach skiing. I'm a former ski instructor. But I used to have some students say, you know, I never fell all day long. I said, then you weren't skiing hard enough.
Huh.
Okay? And there's a good parallel there. The best batter in baseball doesn't get a home run every time he steps up to the plate.
Right.
And it's the same thing. They interviewed Rocket Richard one time. He said, how come you score so much? He said, I shoot the puck.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly.
So, you know, if you don't fail sometimes, maybe you're not trying hard enough. The ship that's tied up at the dock isn't going to have an accident, but it's not going to go anywhere either.
Right.
So your point is very well taken.
Thank you. Have a great day, Fred.
You too, Nancy. You take care. Bye-bye. And Nancy, I'm going to deem that she gets $100. Nancy, that was a very, very good suggestion. So you're out there, you're listening to the show, and you are thinking and chewing on what we're talking about. We're essentially saying that you need to get, on a regular basis, a second opinion in writing, an MRI if you want to call it that, an X-ray if you want to call it that, a GPS if you want to, whatever you want to call it, but you need a plan which is going to provide you with the guidance that you need to take you to where you want to go. Now, it goes without saying, you have to know where you want to go. If you don't have a goal, you're not going to get there. I mean, if you think about the analogy, if you know, I could be the best hockey player in the world, and if you blindfolded me, put me on the ice, took away the nets, I'd never score a goal. Be no hope. Okay? You got to have a goal. You got to have something to shoot for. And the best way to get that is to get yourself the document that I'm talking about. It's called a written financial plan. There is no cost. There is no obligation. And you can get yourself a plan, and whether you implement the plan or not, whether you buy investments from your advisor who provides the plan or not, isn't the important thing. The important thing is that you get the plan, so you can decide when and if you want to implement it. The plan will give you the guidance that you need to do that. Everybody should provide themselves with continuing education all the time about money. And don't say that money isn't important, because it is. I can tell you this, I've been rich and I've been poor, and I'd rather be rich. And Donald Trump, he's been rich and he's been poor, and I know he'd rather be rich. Some people say they don't like money, and I'd say they'd lie about other things. Money is important, but not just earning it, it's keeping it. Because it's not about how much you make that counts, it's about how much you keep, and you must learn, so that it becomes an inbred habit, you must learn to pay yourself first. So make a resolution that from now on, if I make $1, I only spend 90 cents of that dollar. I save 10 cents. And if I don't know how to invest, I'll just put it in the bank and let it accumulate in the bank, because that's okay too. If you spend only 90% of what you earn, you can't possibly fail financially. You know something? It's really as simple as that. If you only spend 90% of what you earn, you can't possibly fail financially. It's impossible. Because that 10% that you're not spending piles up in the bank. Over time, it gets increasingly more and more and more. Let's talk to Colleen from North Vancouver. Colleen, welcome to the program.
Hi, how are you?
Pretty good, Colleen. How are you?
Good, thank you. So the question was, if I win $1 million.
If you win the lottery, it might be $1 million, it might be $50 million.
So,
there's nothing going on. That Powerball in the States can be a lot more than that, but I guess you got to pay tax on it over there, so it's not all net. But if you inherited a whole big bundle of money, or you win a big bundle of money somehow or another, what would you do with the money? That's the question.
number one, pay off my mortgage.
Okay.
Number two, maximize my RRSP contribution.
Yep.
And invest in a managed balance. Invest my money in a managed balanced investment portfolio.
Well, that's a pretty good answer too. Yeah. I'm going to put a spreadsheet up here in a minute. I did this one on the weekend, actually yesterday. But I asked myself the question, I wonder what would happen if a person, the maximum TFSA right now is $5,500. If a person invested enough money into an RRSP that the tax refund that they would get would be $5,500, and they put the $5,500 into a TFSA, how much would that accumulate to? And it's I got some interesting numbers which I'm going to share with everybody out there. But there's an awesome financial plan. I think the number, the 15.5 is the amount that you have to put away to get a refund of $5,500, which is the maximum TFSA. So the net cost to you is 15.5 per year, and you got well over $1 million in the RRSP if you have 25 years of accumulation, and the amount that's in the TFSA is almost enough to pay the tax on it. So it's an interesting thought. So everybody who's listening to the show, part of your strategy should be that whatever you save in tax, you don't spend it, you reinvest it in a TFSA for sure.
Thanks.
Okay. And you need to know what all these numbers are, and people don't. They should be part of your overall financial plan. That's what we're talking about.
That's right.
So I will say this, Colleen, I think that you win yourself $100.
All right, thank you.
Good answer, and that's the equivalent of $200 if you look at it from a tax point of view.
So do I get the 200?
Yeah, you get the 200.
Oh, you're awesome. Thanks.
You got to call Frida.
How do I call?
You reach Frida right now at 604 737 3512.
3512?
737-3512.
Thank you very much.
You take care. Have a good day.
We can hear your broadcast on the internet too, right? Maybe?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
It's a webcast. So anybody, it's an incredible technology that we have right now. Anybody in the world who has an iPhone, even, which is this here device here, if anybody can see it, they could watch it on their iPhone if they're in Australia.
That's excellent.
Or New Zealand. Or Newfoundland.
I'm going to turn you on to my brother in the States. Get him to the States.
Okay, Colleen, can't tell you how much I appreciate your call. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
You too. Take care. Bye.
Bye for now. So what I need to do here now, I just want to pull up this TFSA scenario that I put together. I think I got the numbers right. I'm going by memory, but if I pick this up here, and we go into this one, and here's the TFSA spreadsheet. Here it is here. Okay. Now I have three scenarios. Scenario one, you have $5,500 a year to invest, and you put that into a cash account or an unregistered account. So it's not like a TFSA, it's not like an RRSP, it's just $5,500 into a portfolio of investment funds. And we'll assume that you can get a return of 7% on that. And if you get a return of 7%, it's taxable, and we'll assume that your marginal rate of tax is 40%. Well, that money, by the time, if you were 40 when you started it, by the time you ended up at 65, you would have $244,585. Now, if you put the same $5,500 into a TFSA, it's not taxable. You never pay any tax on it. The value at 65 will be $370,268. So $370,268, that's an increase of additional money of $125,682 tax-free at that point. Now, the maximum, or if you contributed $13,750 to an RRSP and got the same rate of return of 7%, that would accumulate by age 65 to $925,669, assuming a return of 7%. But remember that to withdraw that money from the RRSP, it's all taxable. So the amount that you would have in the TFSA at 65 is $370,000. The amount you'd have in the RRSP is $925,000. You got, if not, you got almost enough money to pay the tax on the RRSP and the TFSA. So simply by reinvesting the tax savings into a TFSA from the RRSP, you're accumulating enough money to pay the future tax liability on the RRSP. It's an awesome idea, and that's what everybody should be doing. So a net cash outlay, in your case, of $13,750. That's the only money that you have to put on the table going into the RRSP. And lots of people listening to this show right now are doing that. And then they get the tax refund. What do? They spend it. Don't spend the tax refund. Put it into your TFSA. That way you don't end up with all your money tied up in your house, your RRSP, and your pension plan with nothing outside. We have to go to the break. And when we come back, we'll continue talking about your money and how to keep it. And we should have Jamie Newens here from Davidson and Company by that time. Don't go away.
Fred Snyder.
I want you to imagine a person who is uptight, always worried, has high blood pressure, looking at their bank statement every time they turn around, and it's always red. Okay? They're spending more than they earn. They can't seem to get out of the hole. They're always telling people, I'm catching up, I'm trying to catch up. So they're always behind the 8 ball. And life isn't pretty. And they're not happy and they're frustrated. And they're not even fun to be around, those kind of people. There's a black cloud hanging over their head. Visualize that, because there's lots of people out there right now that are in that boat.
Fred Snyder.
And you have to ask yourself the question right now, what would happen if that happened to me? Because here I am. I'm sitting out here. I don't have a written financial plan. I haven't taken the time to sit down and think about my goals, the things that I really want to accomplish. I'm like a ship without a rudder. I have no direction. I'm procrastinating because I don't know what to do. And I'm still not doing anything about it. So instead of being proactive as I should be, I'm being reactive. I'm waiting for the bad stuff to happen and not controlling my destiny. If that's you, it's time to make a phone call.
Call Fred. Talk to Fred. Listen to Fred. Fred Snyder. Sunday mornings 9 to 11 on CIL 650. Welcome back to It's Your Money on CIL 650. If you have a question for Fred, call 604-280-0650. Now, back to Fred.
Okay, we're back. I remind you once again, ladies and gentlemen, and listeners out there, we are live. And joining me now is Jamie Newens from Newen. I get it right. From Davidson and Company, okay? And I remind you once again, we're talking about your money and how to keep it. That's the important question. So you're a tax principal specializing in private entity tax matters at Davidson and Company.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. What's that mean?
So I specialize mostly with private enterprises, owner-managed businesses, and high net worth individuals. So that involves their tax compliance and a lot of their tax planning, restructuring, estate planning as well.
Yeah. I don't know what happened to my hyperlink there. It didn't work. But anyway, let's continue. Let's talk about Davidson and Company. Yeah. You're associated with a company called Nexia?
Yeah, that's right.
What do they do?
So
how do they fit in?
Nexia is we're part of a giant conglomerate, if you want to think of it, of accounting firms called Nexia. So that allows us to reach out to other countries where our clients may be doing business in. For example, in Japan, for example, we may have a client there, and we may not specialize in Japanese accounting or tax matters, so we will reach out to our Nexia affiliates.
So you're a full service chartered professional accounting firm. You're located in downtown Vancouver, but you serve clients across and as well around the world.
Absolutely, exactly.
So you get a lot of cross border stuff going on.
Definitely.
Okay. You know, there's it wasn't really on my agenda to talk about today, but an American citizen living in Canada that has an RSP or has a TFSA has a lot of problems. Right?
That's right.
Want to talk about a bit about that?
Sure. I specialize in Canadian tax, but I do touch a little bit on cross-border tax, and our firm does actually have a U.S. tax group that's very experienced. But yeah, generally speaking, if you are a U.S. citizen, as you mentioned, you're subject to tax in the U.S. as well as Canada. The Canada and U.S. tax treaty actually provides for an exemption of your RSPs from being taxed in the U.S. Normally, as many of your listeners probably know, your RSPs, as it grows, you don't pay tax on it until you actually pull it out for Canadian tax purposes.
Yes.
For the U.S. actually follows that rule as well, and they don't tax the RSPs as it earns income until you pull it out. The TFSA, unfortunately, doesn't follow the same rule. So I think you had mentioned it earlier in your program. With the TFSA, it's tax-free. So whatever income you earn in your TFSA is tax-free. But for U.S. tax purposes, unfortunately, they don't actually mimic that rule. So if you're a U.S. citizen and you have a TFSA, you could be taxed actually on that TFSA income.
Wow. What about Cruz?
Pardon me, sorry?
Would Cruz be considered a Canadian citizen or a U.S. citizen for tax purposes?
A Cruz, sorry?
He was Tom.
Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Is he?
Not Tom. Tim. What's? Escapes me. Doesn't matter. Cruz, running for president of the United States.
Oh, okay. Is he a Canadian?
Apparently, he was born in Canada.
Oh, really? Well, in Canada, for tax purposes, you're taxed actually based on residency, not necessarily citizenship. So in the U.S., is a little bit different. It's one of the odd countries out there where they actually tax you based on citizenship, not residency like the rest of us.
So you have more than 100 dynamic individuals, and you're one of the largest independent firms in British Columbia, and especially proud to be one of the largest public auditors in Canada.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely.
Big,
I believe
firm.
I believe this statistics show that we actually do the most public company audits under one roof all across Canada.
So you're downtown Vancouver. Anybody needs to access you, that's fairly easy to do. And we talked about Nexia already. You got more than 570 offices in over 100 countries. That's Nexia, right?
That's right.
So that's a big operation.
Absolutely.
You're strategically placed to serve the diverse international requirements of your clients. So Nexia, once again, more than 570 offices in over 100 countries. The Nexia International Network has a substantial presence in the world's major financial and economic centers. So that positions you and your firm quite well.
Yeah, definitely. Our firm will usually focus a lot on the Canadian operations, U.S. operations. We also handle a lot of things in South America, things like that. And again, when it's outside of our expertise, that's when we reach out to our Nexia affiliates.
Okay, now we talked before we got on the air. You were talking about the next possible federal budget.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk a bit about what to expect?
Sure. So on March 22nd, as many of your listeners probably know, there will be the federal budget, and from that they will basically indicate what they're planning to propose, I should say, to implement, and obviously we'll have a keen interest on the tax side there.
Okay. Any more specific ideas?
Yeah, definitely. The Liberals have already come out and given us some cues of what they're planning to do. Some of the most well-known topics they're going to be bringing up are an increase, sorry, I should say, on the federal tax on high income earners. So there'll be a bump up of 4% on the federal tax rate for income earned above $200,000. And they're actually also planning to decrease the middle tax bracket on the federal side by about 2%. So I think it's somewhere between that $40,000 and $80,000 range. So again, a lot of the Liberals' mandate, or what their goals are to put more money into the middle income earners' hands.
Okay, kind of like Bernie Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
So what will the top marginal rate in Canada be at that time?
It should be, well, right now, if you ignore the, if you look at BC and federal, normally I like to look at it from a BC and federal combined perspective. If you ignore this extra 2% rate, it's probably going to be about close to about 48% on the top marginal bracket.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Wow. Anything else on the budget before we leave that topic?
Well, one of the
sure. What about infrastructure? Trudeau ranted and raved about rebuilding Canada's infrastructure.
Right.
What do you see there in the budget? Anything?
I haven't actually looked at that part yet. I mean, that's what we'll be waiting for on March 22nd. You know, from a tax perspective, one of the other key things is the small business rate will be decreasing over the next few years, going from 11% down to 9%. So it'll be about 0.5% decrease each year till about 2019. And one of the things I know that will be affecting a lot of our clients, especially, is the Liberals have come out and said that for professional corporations, and we're talking about doctors, lawyers, accountants, dentists, things like that, they've indicated that they may be actually removing the ability to claim the small business deduction for those particular corporations.
Oh, that's smart, then, eh?
Pardon me?
That's going to hurt, right?
Oh, that's going to hurt definitely for a lot of people.
Oh. Okay, anything on RSPs?
I don't really think there's going to be too much changes on RSPs. I haven't read anything that would indicate there should be any changes to the RSPs. As you know, the RSP contribution deadline just passed for the 2015 year, so I'm sure you were pretty busy.
Oh, busy as heck, yeah.
Last couple months.
I got here just an idea that I put together that I'd kind of like to share with you. But I thought to myself, someone makes an RSP contribution, and they usually spend the tax refund. But what if they took the tax refund and they used that to fund their TFSA?
Smart idea.
What would the numbers look like, okay? Well, I calculated that in order to get $5,500, which is the maximum TFSA, you'd have to make an RSP contribution of $13,750 if you're in a 40% tax bracket. So that means that if you put $13,750 into an RSP, and you did that over 25 years or 26 years in this example, it would grow to about $1 million, assuming a return of 7%.
Right.
It's just an assumption. Okay. Now you take the $5,500 from the tax refund from the RSP. If you put that into a straight cash account, not a TFSA, that would accumulate to $260,589 at the same rate of return. If you put it into a TFSA, you'd never pay any tax on your profit. That would then accumulate to $402,071. So in theory, if not otherwise, at that particular time, you'd of the $1 million, which is fully taxable in the RSP coming out, you'd have $402,000 to apply towards the tax liability.
Yeah, definitely.
That would be. Would you think that would be a pretty good idea?
Yeah, I think that sounds like a pretty reasonable approach. I mean, I think I heard you at the earlier start of your show. I mean, if you have the refund coming from your tax return and you don't need the money, absolutely invest it, right? And the TFSA is one of the great measures of ways of doing that.
A lot of the people I talk to, they have all their money tied up in their house, their pension plan, their RSP, and they have nothing outside. Many of them don't even have TFSAs. So I think part of your plan should be, I'm going to invest whatever the number is, $10,000 a year into an RSP. The tax from that I'm going to put into it. The tax savings I'm going to put into a TFSA.
Yeah.
I think that would be an excellent plan, and that's really part of the whole overall picture. Let's talk to Cheryl from Vancouver. Cheryl, welcome to the program. Hi, Cheryl. Looks like Cheryl's gone. Cheryl, if you're out there, give us a call back. We'll be happy to take your call. Okay, so again, that's the idea, and I I don't know. I think that's a pretty good idea myself. Let's go back here, and I want to pick up another spreadsheet that I got here. That is this one here. I said to myself, if we take an income of $40,000 a year, and we inflation adjust that 40,000, and so this is somebody who wants an income of 40,000 to start at age 60, 65, 41,200 when you add 3% for inflation, add another 3 and so on. There's your income stream. So how much capital do you need at the beginning of the period to fund that income stream? Is $549,000. Okay? And the question I was asking a lot of people today that were phoning in, if you won the lottery, what would you do with the money? Were you listening to that?
I heard that. Yeah, that's a good question.
Okay.
Makes you think.
So if you won the lottery, what would you do? So we need $549,000 at the beginning of that period to fund that income stream, and the first withdrawal is $41,200, and the last withdrawal is $72,000. That $72,000 won't buy any more than the first 40. Okay. So you pull that out, there's a graphical illustration. That's the income stream, that's the objective, and there's the principal required to fund that. So if you reverse that, it looks like that. There's the income stream, but there's what happens to the principal over the same period of time. And this is why people who win the lottery go broke.
Yeah.
Because they think they got tons of money.
Yeah.
I played what if with this spreadsheet earlier today before I came on the air, and I made the inflation rate 0. If there's no inflation, it's no problem at all. Works. But as soon as you put an inflation rate in, the amount of inflation has to come from the principal.
Right.
So you start depleting the principal.
Exactly.
And you run out. So this guy, if he was alive at 85, he'd be broke. Life expectancy might still be 90 or 95.
Right.
That's a real problem. So you're out there, you're listening to the show, you want to talk about this, you want to contribute to the show, and I think we'll keep our little contest still going. So if you won the lottery, what would you do with the money? 604-280-0650, long distance, 1-877-280-0650. I'm talking with Jamie Newen from Davidson & Company, very large accounting firm. He's part of my mastermind group. And again, we're talking about your money, more importantly, about your money and how to keep it. So get on the line, call us. Let's talk about that and much, much more. So this issue of infrastructure, let's talk a bit about that.
Sure.
Okay. The bridges of the world, the bridges and roads and highways and all, probably the whole wide world needs to be rebuilt.
Right.
Why is infrastructure a really good place to invest?
It's enduring. You look at real estate, for example. I think everyone knows about real estate, for example, in Vancouver. I mean, look how much it's grown over the years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, anything that has enduring nature that people are going to need over time, those are always good investments to have.
Well, if the Lionsgate Bridge falls down, you got to replace it, right?
Exactly.
Second Narrows falls down, you got to replace it.
Yeah.
And that's what's starting to happen to the bridges and roads and highways of North America.
Yeah.
Maybe the whole wide world, for that matter. So there's infrastructure funds out there, and the companies that build bridges and highways and roads are going to be a good place to invest maybe for the next 2 decades.
Yeah.
Hard to go wrong in that area. I don't want to spend an awful lot of time on that. Let's talk about a person's final tax return.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do many of those?
We do. And I think you had actually touched upon this. Well, one of your callers, I was listening as I was coming in. He had asked, he'd said he had accumulated an amount of wealth, and he was concerned that if he'd kicked the can, so to speak, tomorrow, what would happen with all of his wealth, as he didn't think perhaps his kids would be ready to take on all of that wealth. So, if you look at it from a pure tax point of view, when you pass away, you have the departure tax, or not departure tax, a death tax, where you're deemed to basically have disposed of all your assets at fair market value, and any gains that you had on those assets would be taxable to you.
So if I had a small company with 50 or 60 employees that was doing real well, and it didn't have a surviving spouse,
Mm-hmm.
I'd be deemed to have sold that company.
That's exactly right.
Ouch.
So I mean, like you mentioned it right there. I mean, if your will provides, for example, that your surviving spouse will get all of your assets, there's special rollover rules in the Income Tax Act that will allow you to avoid that death tax. But to the extent it's going to, for example, your child, and let's say that business you're talking about is worth $5 million, and you created it from scratch, so your cost base is maybe nominal, you could have a $5 million capital gain there that you'd be subject to tax on, or your estate would be.
Now, for the sake of clarity, that means that $2.5 million is fully taxable as income, right?
That's exactly right. $2.5 million times your applicable marginal tax rate.
Well, that would put you in the top marginal rate to begin with, so that's
exactly
half
right.
of it.
That's exactly right. Close to, it will be close to about 48%.
That is horrible.
That's horrible.
And there's solutions to that, and we'll talk about them. Let's take a few callers. We've got some calls coming in. Let's talk to Rob from Vancouver Island. Rob, welcome to the program.
Hi, Fred.
Hi, Rob. How you doing?
Good. I was just listening to the show like I do every weekend and thinking about your win $1 million, win a lottery, and recently just been redoing the will and realized how easy it is to be a millionaire.
All you got to do is own a house in Vancouver.
Well, I live in Vancouver Island, and I've got a house worth $450,000 or something, but when I started adding everything up, without pensions, I'm still worth $1 million. Of
course. Most people are.
I'm not a wealthy guy.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about what would you do if you won another $1 million, or you won $2 million or $5 million?
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, well, maybe if I traveled, I would sit in the front of the plane.
Travel first class.
Back of the plane, do little things.
Mm-hmm.
But something that became even more apparent to me right now is I've got a niece that's 28 years old, and she's going to have a wedding in Cancun. So the cost for my wife and I to go to that wedding is $4,500 for a week in Cancun.
Wow.
Is it where I really want to go? Not really. And I went, if I put that $4,500 into a wedding gift for my niece, how far would that go?
All depends on what the gift is, for one thing, but that's probably better than going to Cancun.
Well, if I just said, no, I won't be at your wedding, but I'll put $4,500 into an investment for you, what would that be worth for her, for future life and family? And I know you do all your little numbers.
I'll tell you how to become an expert mathematician when it comes to investing returns. If you want to know how long it takes to double money, divide the rate of return into 72. So if she could get 12% on that money, she could double it every 6 years.
Yeah, but she's never going to get 12. But even if she could get
whatever it is, you gotta assume something. If you put the money in the bank, she only gets 2%. It'll take her, 2 goes into 72 36 times, 36 years to double the money.
Yeah.
And so, lots of people don't have 36 years to live, as an example. So there's a balance between risk and reward. So if you're going to start projecting high returns, then the accompanying high returns is high risk. All depends on how much risk you want to take. But, I think getting a return of 6 or 7% in a well-balanced portfolio is reasonable. Reasonable to expect.
Yeah, and I was just thinking when you were talking about your be a millionaire thing, instead of going down there and laying on the beach and not really getting to talk to them, if you just put that same amount of money into an account for them at 28 years old, that could be a really good thing.
I think so. All you got to do is sit down with a pencil and assume the rate of return is 6%. So double it every 12 years and see how much money it adds up to. Better still, get a financial plan.
Well,
okay?
I have one. What I should really do is buy them a wedding present and send them to see you.
That's a good plan.
I know it is.
Okay, I appreciate your call, Rob.
Okay, thanks, Fred.
You take care. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
You too.
Okay. God, I love those calls. Eh? Fantastic. So you're out there, you're listening to the show, and you want to talk. You want to talk about your investments. You have some questions about your investments. You want to contribute to the program. Remember, all callers get I don't like to use the word free, no cost, well-documented, written financial plan, second opinion on your investment portfolio. You know, if there's firms in town that would charge you at least $3,000 for what I'm offering for nothing. Okay, your firm, I'm sure you do financial plans on occasion.
Not so much. It's more on the I would say accounting and tax side.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do a little bit of consulting.
Okay, so again, we've given out 5 $100 prizes. I tell you what, I'm going to throw another couple $100 on the fire. So if you want to take a shot at what you would do if you won the lottery, I want to keep the calls coming, because I get some really good ideas when these people call like that, you know. So we're talking about your final tax return, and that means that's the tax return that your executor, I presume, your executor does for you after you pass away. And that probably sets up a trust, and that trust is called
testamentary trust.
Testamentary trust, okay? Yeah. So there's two types of trusts. There's inter vivos trust and testamentary trust. Testamentary, you got to be dead for. That comes into play.
That's right.
And that's like about managing your money from the grave.
That's right.
So you're out there, you're listening to the show, get in the line and give us a call. Your final tax return. Now, we talked about the deemed disposition issue on the final tax return.
Right.
We got the issue of life insurance as one possible solution. How does that work?
Well, I mean, I guess you're asking probably from a tax point of view. From
Yes.
a tax point of view, I mean, generally the proceeds you receive from a life insurance policy when someone kicks the can, so to speak, will be received tax free, and oftentimes that can be used to fund that death tax. That's, I guess, where you would come in with the life insurance plans.
Well, you got to have. People often pay too much for the wrong kind of life insurance, so you got to have a life insurance policy to be able to fund that unfunded tax liability, which is created by the deemed disposition that happens when you pass away.
That's right.
And if you take somebody that's got an estate or assets that are worth $10 million and they pass away, often they didn't pay much for those assets to begin with. It was nominal, as you said earlier. So there's a capital gain, we'll say, of $10,000. Half of that's taxable, $5,000. That's marginal tax rate, 50%. That's $2.5 million tax, cash. Now, CRA wants to get paid.
That's right.
So what happens? Do they come knocking on the door and say, write us a check for $2.5 million?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I mean, I think what you want to do, and I think you always allude to this, Fred, in all your shows. You want to start planning now, right? You don't really want to start the planning when someone's kicked the can, and now the executors are all kind of scrambling together to come up with a way to fund that death tax bill. So life insurance is one possibility, and as you probably know, a lot of estates oftentimes don't have a lot of cash to pay the tax bill. A lot of it's maybe stuck in real estate, and being able to sell that real estate to fund that tax bill might be difficult.
Well, maybe even have to sell the principal residence.
Exactly.
Even though that itself is not taxable, but you got to get the cash. Will CRA give you terms?
I mean, they'll be charging interest. The rate I think right now is 5% subscribe rate on any outstanding balances. So, you'd now be paying interest on a balance that hopefully you could have avoided if you had cash available earlier on.
Okay. Let's talk to Matthew from Vancouver Island. Matthew, welcome to the program.
Yeah, hi, Fred. How's everything?
I wouldn't complain even if it wasn't good. I tell you, it was great. It was lovely. It was fantastic.
That's great. Now, keep looking up. The market is down. I still keep looking up. Nothing's going to last forever. I sometimes wonder about these figures you claim about putting money in a long-term investment and how it's going to mature and grow. But as we've already seen, the value of the dollar goes down. So what you invested 10, 15 years ago is not worth as much now as it was then.
Well, unless it had some pretty good growth, you're quite right. But that affects all assets. So that doesn't matter. I mean, if you had the money in a term deposit, it would still be affected the same way. You know, you bury $1 in the backyard for 10 years, it's probably worth half as much 10 years from now as it is today because of inflation.
Well, we got to live in the now, so we have to spend the money we have now at today's rate. We can't dwell on the past.
Well, you're quite
rates.
right. That's why, you know, financial planning, I mean, if you don't put your money into equity-type investments that grow, and you say, I'm only going to put it into something that's guaranteed, the people that run the Canada Pension Plan have exactly the same problem. And where do they find guaranteed investments that are going to give them a return that's sufficient to cover the growth that they need and all the rest of it? It's a very difficult task. People who run pension plans, actuaries that run pension plans, have exactly the same problem. You have to learn to take a certain degree of risk. There's no certainty when it comes to equity investments. There's no certainty that your real estate's going to go up in value. There's no certainty that your stocks are going to go up in value. All the projections that we use are based on past performance and certain assumptions. We don't know. And anybody that tells you they do know, run, because they don't know. There's nobody that knows. If there was some secret formula to be able to predict markets so that you could time them properly, if there was a secret formula for that, somebody would write a book, it'd be a bestseller, and everybody who invests in the stock market would make money. And that's impossible because the people that make money at the expense of those that lost money.
Exactly. That's how you win the lottery.
It's kind of the same thing in a way. That's right. And I'm the first to say, look, I don't know how to time the markets, and I know lots of people coast to coast in this business that run. I know people that run provincial pension plans. I know them personally. I could pick them up and say, what's the market going to do? And they say, I don't know. It's going to fluctuate.
Of course.
And that's what happens. It's a lot like calling the next election in the United States. Who's going to be the next president of the United States?
Oh, Bernie Sanders.
You think so?
Well,
I hope not, because he's I don't want to get political on this show, but I don't think it's going to be him. Might be. I think Hillary has a pretty good chance. Trump, I don't know whether he has a good chance or not. Who knows? But listen, if at any given moment in time, there's a certain number of people out there that think a certain thing. They think the market's going to go up, or they think it's going to go down. If more people think the market's going to go up, it'll go up. If more people think it's going to go down, it's going to go down. And they're betting one against the other. And if you knew that, you'd be able to make money in the market. The problem is you might know it, and a second later it changes and goes the other way. And the election, this process that's going on in the States is doing exactly the same thing. It's a really good analogy. There's nobody that knows, there's nobody in their right mind that would bet that any particular person in the presidential race in the United States right now is going to win. You'd be crazy if you made that bet right now.
Yeah, I think you're right there.
You can project it a certain way. So the only solution to the problem that we're talking about right now is called diversify, diversify, diversify. But you got to diversify intelligently. That's called asset allocation. And
Fred,
it's not perfect.
You asked the question, what would I do if I won $1 million?
Yeah, what would you do?
Well, nobody else has suggested this, and it may not be a great idea, but I might turn around and buy $100,000 worth of lottery tickets for the next draw.
You'd be crazy.
So, this accountant fellow you got on there, I wanted to ask him, you guys are talking about how you make money, hold on to money, keep your money. I can tell you the fastest way in today's world that we're living in, how to lose money. And that is to get a divorce.
Tell me about it.
I was in a lawyer's office the other day, and they want retainers in the amount of $30,000, and they want this and that. And I thought, hey, why are these lawyers doing all this and charging you $300 an hour? Get a good accountant to do a discovery on you, and I'm sure it'd be cheaper, but It's an awful expensive way to live, is going through a divorce.
It sure is. You know, the best way to make a small fortune? Invest a large one.
Yeah. Well, we won't. That's not the way we want to go here, Fred.
We sure don't. No.
No.
Can't tell you how much I appreciate your call.
Thank you,
You
Fred.
enjoy the rest of the weekend.
We'll
Take
be
care.
in touch. Yeah. Bye for now.
Bye for now. Let's talk to Olga from Vancouver. Olga, thanks for waiting.
Hi, Fred. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. How you doing?
Pretty good. Now, your callers are reminding me of what you and Napoleon Hill have taught me about conceiving, believing, and achieving. And since I'm doing all right according to my own personal plan, I'm grateful for my lottery win, and I would use it as seed money to develop interactive audiovisual education programs for grade 5 students to focus on health promotion, including financial facts of life.
What an awesome answer.
And because of that, it does take power to retain that money. That's where you and your mastermind group come in as my advisors. Because the words have to be translated into action.
I'm going to say that just won you $100. That's a really good answer.
Thanks, Fred. But it's a delight talking with you, and I've enjoyed the topic. And
one of the, in the 10 scrolls, one of the scrolls says that I shall multiply my value 100-fold. That's precisely what you're talking about right now.
Right.
That's like compound interest when you're investing or whatever.
Yeah, because you need that group think too, so that it's
you win some. Like one of the chapters in the book talks about what I would do if I had $1 million. I should actually use that chapter as a model. It's a really good one.
Yes.
But it's the same idea. You invest that money so that it grows and compounds, and that's the trick.
Exactly.
Can't tell you how much I appreciate your call. Give Frida a call, okay?
Will do. Hang in there. Bye for now.
You too, Olga. Take care. Bye for now. Okay, I guess we got to go to the break, right? So we go to the break, and when we come back, we'll continue talking with Jamie Newen about your money and how to keep it. He's with Davidson and Company, and he's a chartered accountant, one of the finest in Vancouver. So if you have any questions about accounting principles, et cetera, give us a call. Don't go away.
Fred Snyder.
Do you have a GPS? I do. I have one in my boat. I have one in my car. I get in my car, I can turn the GPS on, put an address in, it'll tell me exactly how to get there. When I'm in my boat, I can say I want to go to Anvil Island, and my boat will take me right there every time. Wouldn't it be nice to have a financial plan that would do the same thing?
Fred Snyder.
When you sit down with a financial advisor such as myself, I have to determine the level of risk that you need to take and the level of risk that you're able to take and the level of risk that you want to take and the way to get the best return on your investments. That's what your financial plan is all about.
Fred Snyder.
I just really appreciate and honor what you do every week for people, is giving them financial knowledge, so I'm just really happy about that. Just keep on doing the awesome work, Fred.
Fred Snyder.
So 3 kinds of people: those who really don't have a plan, they're just kind of starting out, those who are on the way, and those who feel they're already there. The 3 types of people. And those who are already there, maybe you need to get a second opinion on that portfolio, that you have to make sure that it's the right one, or maybe you have to tweak the plan itself. That's what we're talking about. If you fall into any of those categories, time to make a phone call.
Call Fred. Listen to Fred. Fred Snyder. Sunday mornings 9 to 11 on CIL 650. This is CISL Vancouver. Smooth and easy. CIL 650. You're listening to It's Your Money on CIL 650. Once again, here is Fred Snyder.
Okay, we're back. Remind you once again, ladies and gentlemen and listeners out there, we are live, and we're talking about your money and how to keep it. Most important phrase there is how to keep it. And we don't do a very good job of that. I can give you all kinds of statistics to back that up. I'm just going to say the reason we fail to keep as much as we should is we lack having a financial plan. Ultimately, that'll solve most problems. And if you call the show, I'm prepared to give you gratis a written financial plan, no cost or obligation of any kind. Now, maybe you have an investment portfolio right now and you're not sure that it's the right portfolio, or you're you think is too risky or not risky enough, you want to get that assessed, we'll provide you with that too. There is no cost or obligation. We'll give you your choice of 21 books on money that I give away. That I've read them all from cover to cover, study them religiously. You get that as well. See you at our next workshop. All you have to do is call Frida, and I think we have one more gift of $100 to give away for somebody who can say, if I won the lottery, this is what I would do with the money. Okay? If I won the lottery, this is, dream a little bit, guys. Ask the question, if I won what would I do with that money? Okay? Motivate yourself. Develop a burning desire to become more successful with your money. Because we want to sometimes, but we don't want to enough. And maybe that's why we don't do what we need to do from a financial point of view. Let's talk to Cheryl from Vancouver. Cheryl, welcome to the program.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Cheryl.
I have a U.S. inheritance question. May I ask that?
Absolutely. Perfect question.
Okay. I'm Canadian with U.S. dual citizenship. My father is Canadian residing in the U.S. He receives an American pension and a Canadian pension. His Canadian pension goes into a Canadian bank, and his American pension goes into a U.S. bank. When he passes away, what are the implications for me? Because I'm also keeping under the radar because I need to file back taxes in the U.S., and I don't. So I'm just wondering what's going to happen when he passes away and he has a U.S. account that goes to us kids.
Before Jamie answers that question, can I ask you a simple question? You're a Canadian resident right now, but you're a U.S. citizen, correct?
No, I'm pure Canadian with dual citizen.
You have dual citizen. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have an RRSP?
Canadian one, yes.
Do you have a TFSA?
Do I what?
A TFSA?
Yes.
Okay. You can answer the question.
So, Cheryl, you said you are a dual citizen, so you do have U.S. citizenship?
I do.
Okay, so are you aware that as a U.S. citizen, you have to file U.S. tax returns? Okay.
Yes, and I haven't, so I'm living under the radar.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's a little bit of a slippery slope. Again, I specialize in Canadian tax. I do dabble a little bit on cross-border. On the U.S. tax side, from, just generally speaking, I do know in the U.S. there is a gift tax that you have to be aware of. So just know that, I can imagine possibly, if your father one day, when your father one day passes away and, his estate is subject to tax in the U.S. and you're a beneficiary of that estate, you may come onto see the IRS's radar at that time.
Yeah, I know.
So what you want to do is, and I don't know if you're aware of this, and I'm sure other listeners have the same issue, is the U.S. has a similar type of like a voluntary disclosure program similar to Canada that effectively allows you to come forward and correct your tax filings without being subject to penalties.
Okay.
So something you definitely want to consider and talk to an advisor about. And, if you want, you could give us a call at Davidson & Company. We can help you out.
Give her your number.
Okay. In the meantime, would it help at all if he were to put his American money in a Canadian bank account instead?
Sorry, is your father, is he a U.S. citizen?
No, he's Canadian, retained as Canadian citizenship, but he was married to my American mother, yeah.
Yeah, so... I mean, anytime he's pulling money away from the U.S., you'd have to consider if there is a U.S. gift tax, if there are any U.S. tax implications there. So I would caution, and again, this is me not being a U.S. Specialist, but I would caution from simply trying to pull money away from the U.S. and put it into a Canadian, some sort of Canadian asset without fully considering the tax implications.
Okay, thanks very much for your help.
Okay, can't tell you how much I appreciate your call. Oh, Cheryl, you won the lottery. What would you do with the money?
Oh, geez,
you can win $100 on this one,
I would probably buy some real estate, go on a holiday. I think I would take my dad on a nice holiday for his 90th birthday.
Okay, can't tell you how much I appreciate your call. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Okay, I got the topic of cross-border issues. You want to say anything more about that?
I just kind of actually it's actually kind of touches on Cheryl's point there. Just be aware, if you're a Canadian resident, you are required to report your worldwide income, so that would include any assets or any income that you're making outside of Canada. I think sometimes people forget, if you have some money, in France, for example, and you have a rental property there, it's earning income, you have to report that
No
on
matter
your
where in
tax
the world.
return. Exactly, your worldwide income. And then also be aware, not only do you have to report that income, to the extent that the cost of those assets outside of Canada exceed $100,000, you also have certain foreign reporting filing obligations with your Canadian tax return.
So anyone who is in that kind of a situation should consult with somebody like yourself.
Absolutely.
Or your firm, anyway.
Yep, definitely. And there have been some new rules with that foreign reporting form, so just be aware of those as well.
Okay, we had some questions earlier on the issue of trust, so let's visit the issue of trust. What's a trust?
Yeah, so a trust is really set up. Usually there's a few parties involved with when a trust is set up. There's a settlor that basically creates that trust. They, for example, they create that trust by gifting, for example, a coin, silver coin, for example, to that trust, and the trust is there for the benefit of the beneficiaries of that trust, and the people that are in charge of administering that trust are the trustees. So I know one of your earlier callers had asked what happens if I pass away and I don't think my kids, maybe his kids are young, or he doesn't feel they're responsible enough to manage his $3 million estate. What can he do? And you had mentioned it. You could consider setting up a trust. The trust deed would basically outline how that income or the capital would be distributed to the beneficiaries. And I think you had mentioned that too. You can leave the capital behind and just distribute out the income, for example, and preserve that principle.
Okay, give me a list of the various types of trusts that exist.
Oh, there's a lot. I mean, like you mentioned before, there's the inter vivos trust. So, just a family trust, for example, would be one. There's alter ego trust. They're set up for individuals after the age of 65. Joint spousal trusts as well. And like you mentioned before, testamentary trusts. And those have actually had there's significant changes in the tax legislation for testamentary trusts.
What are some of the reasons a person would set up a inter vivos trust?
Definitely.
This is a trust that while you're alive.
Exactly. One of the most common ways, from a pure tax planning point of view, is income splitting, right? So if you look at someone, for example, that owns a manufacturing company, and he knows one day he's going to pass away, and he wants his kids, for example, to take over the business, or he wants to basically provide a means to split income with those family members, he could consider setting up a trust to basically be a shareholder of that corporation.
Okay.
And from that, just to elaborate that on, and from that, for example, hypothetically speaking, the corporation would pay dividends up to the trust as being a shareholder, and that trust would then distribute the assets the dividends out to the beneficiaries of that trust.
You mentioned the term income splitting. What's that mean?
So income splitting is a way to basically split income with family members, for example, and take advantage of their lower marginal tax brackets. Because in Canada, we do have graduated rates where, at the lower levels, you're taxed at a lower amount. As your income starts to increase, you're taxed at a higher rate.
Give me an example.
So let's use an example. Let's use a guy named John Smith, for example, and he owns a manufacturing company. He sets up a family trust. He has a wife, he has 2 kids who are adult children. Let's ensure they're adults here. So they have 4 people that he effectively wants to share or split income with. To the extent his company is making money, it can distribute income or dividends up to the trust, and that trust can then basically distribute the income 4 ways among the family members and take advantage of the lower marginal tax brackets. And that's a really tax effective way versus if John Smith is the sole shareholder of that manufacturing company.
Okay, so essentially, let's say that I have a term deposit, as an example, and I'm in the top tax bracket, and let's say that I'm getting $5,000 a year interest on that. So that means half of that $5,000 goes to the tax man. If I can move the ownership of that term deposit over to somebody else that's in a lower bracket, can I avoid the tax on the $5,000?
That's a good question, Fred.
Generally, that's the rules of attribution.
Yeah,
right?
that's exactly right. And you want to be careful with things like that, where you just simply say, here, why don't you take this money, invest it, and you earn that income, and you report the income on your tax return, because maybe the child, for example, or maybe the 20-year-old son, for example, has no other income. You just mentioned it there. The attribution rules would basically push that income back to the parent, for example.
I can give the principal away, but I can't give the income away.
Yeah, so with attribution, you just have to be careful. You can't just simply use that as a way to income split. There are different ways around that. For example, you could do a spousal loan, for example.
That's what I wanted to ask you about, yeah.
Yeah, where you could basically loan money, for example, to a spouse, charge them a rate as if you were the bank to them. They would pay you, for example, 1% per year.
Can I get away with 1%?
It has to basically be at the prescribed rate. Right now, it's 1%. And so what would end up happening is the spouse would then take that money, let's call it $1 million, invest that income, and they would get to report that income on their tax return, and again take advantage of the lower tax bracket.
Well, that's a hell of a loophole, isn't it?
It's not really a loophole. I mean, that's within the legislation, but yeah, definitely that's something you want to do and consider anytime you're looking at ways to income split.
So if I have $100,000, we'll say in a GIC or whatever, I can loan that money to my wife or my spouse, and I only have to charge 1%. But I'd have to charge, because if I don't charge, the rules of attribution kick in.
Right. Well,
but 1% is almost nothing anyway.
Exactly. I mean, technically, if you look at the rules, so what would end up happening is she would have to claim the 1%. She would get a deduction of that 1% on her tax return, because she's effectively paying interest on monies borrowed for income producing purposes, and then you would report that 1% on your tax return as income.
Okay, let's take some calls. Let's talk to Helen from Richmond. Helen, welcome to the program.
Hi, Fred.
Hi, Helen. How you doing?
I'm good. I just wanted to ask Jamie, he was talking about trust. If you had a trust for your children on a coin collection, would that be expensive to set up? And I'm not sure what the coins are worth.
To set up a trust? I mean, yeah, the trust. So whenever you want to set up a trust, normally the way it works is you'd go probably see a lawyer, for example, and you'd basically tell them exactly what you want to do. You say, I have this coin collection worth, for example, $100,000, and I want that to eventually go to my kids, for example, and I want them to be the beneficiaries of that trust. So, as Fred alluded to before, that would be an inter vivos trust. It'd be like, think of it like a family trust, and they would basically do the trust deed to affect that. And yeah, I mean,
and it would be a percentage of the worth of it, or what?
Are you talking about the fees to set it up?
Right.
The fees to set it up would be whatever the lawyers charge. So, I've seen it anywhere from $1,500 to set up a trust to $2,500. It kind of depends on how fancy you want the trust to be.
Mm-hmm. And I also have a question for Fred, please, about your son, Fred. Is he a CFP, and is he in your same building? And
no, he's not even the same company. He's with Hollis Wealth. It used to be Dundee.
Uh-huh. And are his fees similar to yours, or?
Hardly any different at all. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's downtown, or?
He's out in Burnaby.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that answers it. Thanks, guys, for your help.
Okay, Helen, can't tell you how much I appreciate you. Oh, what would you do if you won the lottery?
Well, I would just get my kids rounded up, and I'd be in your office so fast.
Good answer.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks for your call. Appreciate
Bye-bye.
it. Let's talk to Tom from Royal City. Tom, welcome to the program.
Hi, Fred.
Hi,
Nice
Tom.
to hear from you again. I see you got the specialist on your radio station today.
Yeah, part of my mastermind group.
I've got a friend who has a house he lives in, and next door he has a house on a separate lot. And he's thinking of selling his home and moving into the other one, and so he doesn't have to pay the tax. So he'd sell his home that he's living in and move into the one he's renting out to avoid any tax.
That's a change of use problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
You want to answer that one, Jamie?
Sure.
I don't want to steal your thunder.
Like Fred mentioned, so the one thing your friend needs to just be aware of is anytime you're changing the use of a property, for example, it's going from your personal residence to income-producing use now, or vice versa, is going from income-producing use to principal residence, there is what they call a deemed disposition of the property at that point in time. And what happens with that deemed disposition is you are deemed to have sold the property at fair market value at that time, and you could potentially be triggering a gain at that time. So if we kind of look at your friend's example, when he on the first property, the one he currently lives on, there would be a deemed disposition there. Perhaps it could be fully sheltered by the principal residence exemption. So maybe he doesn't pay any tax on that one. But on the second house, now that's being switched also from income producing use to personal use. And again, you'd have to consider if there's a deemed disposition there and what the gains would be. Does that make sense?
No, I'm more confused now than ever.
Just know that it's not as simple as it's not as simple as just saying, oh, there would be no tax consequences. It is actually a fairly complicated scenario and situation, and like Fred said, he wouldn't even want to simply answer that off the cuff.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was way too simple because when he was told by some accountant that if he sold his place and moved into the other place, he would eliminate a lot of taxes. He would pay.
You gotta run the numbers. It really depends on the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Remember what Jamie just said. You move out of the rental, that's called change of use. So that triggers a deemed disposition. Even though you haven't sold it, the government pretends you sold it and said, if you sold it, this would be the tax problem. Now, if the adjusted cost base of the house and the actual value, fair market value, are almost the same, then there's no problem. But if there's a big spread, there's a huge problem.
So if he sells the one he's living in, he doesn't have to pay tax on that one, right?
No, the house he's living in is your principal residence. There's no tax on that.
So he wouldn't pay tax.
And Tom, just on that point, just know there are special relieving provisions in the Income Tax Act that maybe allow your friend or your neighbor to avoid it. There are special elections that basically allow that deemed disposition not to occur. But again, it's a pretty complicated situation, just because especially you're dealing with two properties. But your friend should seek the proper advice on that.
Yeah, I think so, because he's got a renter in there now, and so he's figured, well, it's as simple as selling his home, taking the money, and then moving into the renter's one and kicking him out and living in there. Yeah,
and again, at the end of the day, your friend may actually end up not paying any taxes, but it is a complicated tax scenario, and hopefully he is getting sound tax advice before he acts on it.
Yeah. Okay. I guess he was just too busy to phone.
So, Tom, what would you do if you won the lottery?
Oh, I'd just probably give it to my financial planner since he's looking after what I have in there now. Why not just
That's a good answer.
I would have let
you win.
Take some time to decide on what I want to do that way.
Can't tell you how much I appreciate your call, Tom. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, I don't know if we got time for any more. We got to be signing off. I just got the high sign, so I want a couple of questions. Incorporation tax. We'll skip that until the next time.
Yeah, on the next show.
I'd like to take a minute to thank Jamie from Davidson and Company for being here, and our listeners can reach you at what number?
604-687-0947, and you can also get on our website, davidson-co.com, and just on that point with the federal budget. On March 22nd, we will actually be releasing a short video on our website that will summarize all of the key tax points. So you can get into our website and watch that.
And maybe after that budget is announced, you can come back on again. We can do another show. Okay, we got to go. Thanks for listening. Thanks for participating. See you same time, same station next week. Bye for now.
If you'd like Fred to review your portfolio, call his office right now at 604-737-3512. That's 604-737-3512.